The silence that said too much morning light slipped through the tall windows of the old rehearsal hall. Dust floated gently in the air like tiny ghosts of forgotten moments. Inside, the crew moved with quiet urgency, setting lights, checking cables, shuffling pages of the script. Voices bounced off the walls, some filled with excitement, others pressed with stress. But one person, sitting quietly in the back corner near a worn leather couch, hadn't said a word since she walked. And Ana de Armas sat still, her hands resting in her lap. Her eyes weren't scanning the script. They weren't on her phone. They weren't even looking at the camera set up in front of her. They were just ... distant, empty in a way that didn't match her usual warmth. Her face wore no expression. But something in the tightness of her jaw and the way her fingers were locked together told anyone who cared to look something was wrong. But most people didn't look. They were too busy with their own roles, their own worries, their own scenes. Except one, Keanu Reeves noticed. He had arrived a little late, quietly as always. No big entrance, no spotlight on him, just a soft hello to the crew, a small wave, and that calm presence he always carried. But when he passed by Ana, something made him stop. She didn't greet him. She didn't lift her head, and that was not like her. They'd worked together for a while now on set. Ana was usually soft-spoken but kind. She always gave a little smile, a gentle nod, a whispered joke. Now and then when nerves ran high. But today, she looked like she had forgotten how to smile. Keanu walked past her. But his mind didn't move on. An hour later, during the first run-through, Ana missed her cue. The assistant director called out her line again, kindly but firm. Still nothing. Ana blinked and looked up like waking from a dream. Her lips moved slowly, but no words came out. The room grew quiet. Keanu stood across from her, waiting for the scene to resume, but he didn't rush. He didn't pressure. Just watched her. Not as an actor needing his partner to focus, but as a human being trying to understand another one. After a moment, the director called for a short break. People wandered off, grabbing coffee, taking calls. Ana stayed where she was. She didn't even move her feet. Keanu walked over and sat on the edge of the couch next to her. "Hey," he said softly. "You don't have to talk. Just can I sit here?" Ana didn't nod, didn't speak. But she didn't move away either. The silence between them lasted for several long minutes. But Keanu didn't fill it. He didn't try to cheer her up or ask questions. He just stayed close. Finally, she whispered something, so soft he almost missed it. "I got a call this morning." Keanu turned toward her, but gently. "Yeah. My mom's not well, they said. Said it might be her last week." Keanu's breath caught, but he didn't show shock. Just placed his hand slowly over hers, careful like someone touching glass. "I'm so sorry," he said. "Shouldn't be here today?" Ana's eyes stayed forward. "I didn't know where else to go." There was a pause. A long one. "This place," she said, her voice breaking just slightly. "It's the only place I can forget." For even a second, Keanu nodded. "You don't have to pretend here. Not with me." Something in that moment shifted. Ana's hand relaxed under his. Not much was said after that. They sat together in the quiet corner, sharing silence, sharing pain. But something in that silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was gentle. Shared later that afternoon during a second run-through, Ana tried again. She spoke her lines, slowly at first, a little shaky. But she got through it, and after the scene, Keanu gave her a small nod. Not applause, not praise, just a look that said, "I see you. I'm here." She gave him the smallest smile. It wasn't much, but it was something. And that night, when everyone else left the set, Keanu stayed behind. He walked up to the producer and asked for something quietly. "Can we move Ana's shooting schedule to next week?" The producer hesitated. "We're already tight." "I'll work double next week," Keanu said. But she needs to be with her mom now." The producer looked at him. Something in his voice made it clear. This wasn't a suggestion. The change was made, and Ana never even knew he was the one who asked. But when she got the call that she was cleared for leave, she turned to Keanu and saw the truth in his eyes. She said nothing. But this time the silence was full of gratitude. She came back with tears and her Isa week passed. The set felt different without Anna. Her quiet presence, her soft footsteps, even the way she held her script with care, all left a space that no one could fill.
Ow.
People noticed her absence, but they didn't talk about it much. The work had to go on. Scenes had to be shot. Deadlines didn't care about grief. Keanu came to set every day, just like always. He showed up on time, did his scenes with focus, treated everyone kindly. But there was a new weight in his movements, a new kind of stillness in his eyes. He didn't say much either. Every day. During lunch, he would walk over to the corner of the set where Anna had once sat on that worn leather couch. He'd rest there for a few quiet minutes, sometimes sipping his tea, sometimes just thinking. The crew whispered about it. Some thought he missed her. Others assumed he was just being himself, but no one really asked. Until one rainy morning, Anna returned. She walked onto set with her head low. Hair damp from the drizzle outside, eyes swollen from more than just lack of sleep. The makeup team looked at her with concern, but she gave them a small smile and nodded. She didn't need sympathy. She needed to feel human again. Keanu saw her before anyone else did. He was sitting near the lights, reading over the revised pages when his eyes lifted and met hers. She froze for a second. Not because she was scared or shy, but because something about seeing him the way he looked at her with no pressure, no pity, just presence made her feel safe again. He stood up slowly and walked over. She didn't speak, but he did. "Came back," he said, voice gentle. Anna nodded. Her eyes glistened. "I didn't want to," she said softly. "But I knew. If I didn't come back now, I never would." Keanu placed a hand over his heart, a small gesture that meant everything. "We missed you." Anna blinked, and just like that, the tears started. She tried to hold them in, tried to turn away. But Keanu gently stepped in front of her and opened. His arms, without hesitation, she fell into them. It wasn't dramatic. It was no spotlight, no music playing in the background. It's just two people in the middle of a film set, holding on to something real in a world built on pretend. She cried. For a few long moments, deep, silent sobs that shook her body. Keanu didn't say anything. He didn't move. He just stood still, letting her release it all. When she finally pulled back, she wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her sweater and gave a half laugh. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I thought I could do this." "You can," Keanu said. "You just don't have to do it alone." They walked together to the side, away from the noise of the crew, and sat down on the same couch from before. It was like the circle had closed, but something had changed. Anna took a deep breath. She passed peacefully, she said, holding my hand. Keanu looked at her with quiet respect. "She knew you were there," he said. Anna nodded slowly. "She waited for me, I think. She didn't want me to carry guilt." Keanu didn't speak for a moment. Then he leaned slightly closer and said, "You gave her that gift. Being there, showing up." Anna stared ahead, her fingers playing with the edge of her sleeve. "And you gave me mine." "Thank you." Keanu gave her a small smile. "It was nothing." "No," she said firmly, voice a little stronger now. "You gave me time, you gave me space, and you didn't ask for anything in return." Keanu shrugged lightly. "We're not just actors. We're people first." For the first time since she arrived, Anna's shoulders eased. It was like a storm had passed, and in its place was something quiet, steady, and healing. The rest of the day went slowly. She didn't jump back into scenes. The director gave her space. The team adjusted. The schedule, quietly, respectfully, but something special happened during the last hour of the day. Anna walked onto the small practice stage. There was no camera rolling, no script in hand. She looked at the empty chairs in front of her, then turned to Keanu. "Would you run a scene with me?" she asked softly. Keanu paused, then stood. They picked a quiet monologue from a past film. Nothing heavy, nothing too emotional. Just words meant to be spoken by someone trying to find their place in the world again. Keanu read the first line. Anna responded. Her voice cracked once. Then again, while she kept going. Keanu stayed calm, steady, like a lighthouse in fog. And by the end of the monologue, she was speaking clearly. Her hands relaxed, Her body lifted, and when she finished the final line, the room fell quiet. No one clapped. No. One needed to, because that moment wasn't about performance. It was about healing. Keanu walked over, placed a hand on her shoulder, and whispered, "You're ready?" Anna smiled, and this time the smile reached her eyes. The kindness no one saw coming next few days moved like slow waves, gentle, careful, but full of quiet power. Anna started showing up earlier. She didn't talk much still, but there was something in the way she moved that felt different. Her steps weren't as heavy, her eyes didn't drift so far away, and her voice, though still soft, carried a little more strength each time she spoke. Everyone on set noticed. Even if they didn't say it out loud, but one person saw more than anyone else. Keanu watched the way she held her coffee with both hands in the morning, as if warming more than just her fingers. He noticed when she stood a little longer after scenes ended, as if soaking in the moment instead of rushing away. He saw the way her gaze followed a child actor on set, eyes softening with something close to memory. Then one afternoon, something unexpected happened. The director called for a difficult scene. It was emotional, two characters breaking down. After years of silence between them, the script was heavy, painful, a reflection of everything Anna had been through lately. Everyone hesitated. Even Anna. She looked at the scene breakdown, then looked away. "We can move it to next week," the assistant director said gently. "No pressure." But Anna shook her head slowly. "No, I want to try." The set grew quiet. Keanu stood nearby. Already in costume, he met her eyes and gave a single nod. Nothing more. The lights dimmed. The cameras rolled, and Anna stepped into the scene. At first, her voice trembled. She missed a word, then another. The emotion was too close, too raw. The pain on her face wasn't acting, it was real. The director started to raise his hand. But Keanu spoke softly. "Let it play." Anna stood across from Keanu, her arms folded, tight, her chin shaking slightly. Her character was supposed to yell, cry, beg for understanding. But instead, she whispered her lines like broken prayers. Keanu responded in character, slowly building the tension. Didn't push. He didn't perform. He just gave her space, and then something clicked. Anna's voice rose. Her hands opened. She looked at him not as a co-star, but as if truly seeing someone who had hurt her, loved her, lost her. The words came faster, stronger. The pain cracked open, pouring out in waves. Tears ran down her face. The camera kept rolling, and Keanu matched her every breath, every beat, without ever making it about him. By the end of the scene, Keanu collapsed into a chair, out of breath, shaking. Everyone behind the camera held still. No one dared speak. Then the director whispered, "Cut." Silence, and then quiet applause. Not the loud, staged kind, but gentle. Real. And then looked around, blinking through tears. For a moment she seemed confused, like she wasn't sure if it had actually happened or if she'd imagined her own strength. Keanu walked over slowly and handed her a bottle of water. She took it with trembling fingers. "You didn't just do the scene," he said softly. "You lived through it." Anna stared at him, her throat too tight for words. "You were brilliant," he added. She whispered back, "I was terrified." Keanu smiled gently. That's what made it real. That night after wrap, the crew left one by one, but Anna stayed. Behind, sitting on the edge of the stage, legs dangling off the side, Keanu noticed. Of course, he walked over and sat beside her. "You want to talk about it?" he asked. Anna shook her head. "I just want to sit." "Okay," he said. They sat in silence for a while, then quietly, Anna pulled something from her bag. It was a small framed photo, her and her mother, smiling in front of a bakery. Hair blowing in the wind, eyes full of laughter. "I carried this with me every day since she passed," Anna whispered. "But I never had the courage to take it. Out until now." Keanu looked at the photo, then at Anna. "She'd be proud of you today," he said. "More than ever." Anna nodded slowly, tears filling her eyes again. But this time, they didn't fall. "Thank you," she said. Not just for today, but for being kind, for seeing me when I was invisible. Keanu shook his head gently. You were never invisible, Anna. Not to me. In that quiet theater, long after the camera stopped rolling, something deeper formed between them. Not just friendship, not just respect, but something built on truth. On seeing someone fully in their pain and choosing to stay anyway. And the next morning, something else changed. When Anna walked on set, she brought a box of warm pastries for the crew. A small card sat beside. Thank you for giving me time to be human. Keanu smiled when he read it because kindness when shared always grows. The voice she didn't know she still had a few weeks past. The days became smoother, warmer, filled with quiet laughter and new memories. The heavy cloud that once followed Anna seemed to thin out with each passing sunrise. She smiled more. She spoke more. Even when she was quiet, it no longer felt like pain, it felt like peace. The production had moved to a new location. The set now sat on a hillside overlooking the ocean. Golden light poured through every window, casting long shadows and making everything look softer, almost like a dream. It was a fitting place for healing, but something else had changed. Anna had started. Writing again, Keanu found out by accident. One evening, after everyone had left the set, he returned to grab a forgotten scarf. As he passed through the quiet dressing room area, he noticed a small notebook left on the makeup table. He recognized the handwriting instantly, and as he didn't open it, of course. But the page that was half-turned revealed a few words, scribbled lightly in pencil. Sometimes I feel the rain understands me better than people. He paused. Not because he was surprised, but because the sentence held something he hadn't heard in a long time from anyone. It wasn't just a sentence. It was a feeling, captured simply and honestly. Later that night, he saw her sitting outside her trailer, legs curled under her notebook in hand. The breeze moved gently through her hair, and the sound of the waves below echoed up the cliff. You, right? He asked softly. Anna looked up, caught off guard, then gave a shy smile. I try. I saw your notebook, he said quickly. Didn't read it, just the top line. She didn't seem bothered. Instead, she looked down at the notebook in her lap and said, It's the only way I can breathe sometimes. Keanu sat beside her. Words are powerful, he said, especially the ones we don't say out loud. Anna nodded. I used to write when I was a kid. Silly stories, poems, letters I never sent. Why did you stop? She took a deep breath. Life got too loud, I think. I forgot I had anything worth saying. Keanu looked at her, his voice calm. What? But you didn't stop feeling. Anna nodded again, slower this time. What? And now the feelings are coming out in waves. All right. All right. All night sometimes. I don't even know if it's good. I just need to. Keanu smiled. Good doesn't matter. Truth does. The next day, something surprising happened. The director called Anna into his office trailer and handed her a script. It was for a short film, a quiet piece, emotionally driven. Not action, not big budget. Keanu showed me a few lines from your notebook, the director said gently. He asked me to read them, and, Anna, they moved me. Anna blinked, stunned. What? The director handed her a few printed pages. We've been talking about doing something smaller after this film wraps. Something raw. Honest, Keanu suggested we base it off your writing. Anna stood frozen. It's just a first draft, the director added. We shaped it into a story, but your voice is all over it. You wrote this, even if you didn't mean to. Her hands trembled as she held the pages. You want me to act in it? She asked softly. The director shook his head. No. What? We want you two directed. On his breath caught. No one had ever offered her that kind of trust before. She had acted. She had modeled. She had taken direction, followed scripts, done everything asked of her. But this was different. This was about her voice. Later she found Keanu near the equipment truck. Helping a crew member fix a light, she walked up and stood quietly beside him. He turned, saw her holding the pages. You read it? he asked. You showed them my words? She asked back, voice shaking. He nodded gently. Only a few lines. I hoped they'd see what I saw. Anna stepped closer, her eyes filling. Why? She whispered. Keanu looked at her, not smiling, just steady. Because your silence said everything. And your words deserve more than a notebook, she broke. Not into tears this time, but into something softer. Her walls dropped, not out of pain, but because she finally felt seen, really seen, in a way she never had before. I don't know. What I'm doing, she said. None of us do, Keanu replied. You've got something that matters. Anna nodded, pressing the pages to her chest. I think I want to try. Then try, he said, and she did. Over the next few days, Anna worked on her script every night. The crew offered help. Actors volunteered their time. The studio gave her a tiny slot of leftover time and space. But most importantly, Keanu stayed by her side. He didn't take over. He didn't guide too much. He just offered quiet support. A calm voice when things felt too loud. A steady hand when she doubted herself. And the first scene they filmed was the one about rain. Anna watched from behind the monitor, headphones on, heart racing. When it was done, the camera operator turned to her and said, You got it? That was beautiful. Anna covered her mouth, overwhelmed. Keanu walked over, handed her a bottle of water and said nothing. He didn't need to, because in that moment, her voice had found its way out of silence and into something much bigger than she ever imagined. The light she didn't know, she carried the short film wrapped in just 4 days. No fancy cameras, no massive budget. No screaming producers or blinding red carpets. Just truth, just heart, just a group of people working together to tell a story. That mattered. And at the center of it all was Anna. She had never called herself a leader before, never imagined she'd be the one behind the camera, giving quiet direction, asking actors to go deeper, take their time, breathe through a scene. But now, with a headset over her ears and her small notebook always in hand, she looked like she belonged, because she did. The final scene was filmed on a quiet beach just after sunrise. Golden light spilled across the water. The sky was soft, with pink and blue clouds, like the world had decided to be gentle for once. Anna stood watching the monitor, her breath caught as the final shot rolled in. An actor standing alone in the waves, whispering lines she had once written late at night in her trailer. When her hands wouldn't stop shaking and her grief felt like it might eat her alive. I don't need to be loud, the voice said in the scene. I just need to be heard. Cut. Anna let the headphones fall from her neck. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just stood there, her arms wrapped around herself, staring at the screen. Keanu came up beside her. He didn't ask how she felt. He didn't need to. I never thought I'd finish anything again, Anna said softly, her voice shaky with disbelief. But this feels like something real. Keanu nodded, 'cause it is. You believed in me when I couldn't even breathe. You just needed a little space, he said gently. The rest was already in you. The post-production process moved fast. Anna sat in on the edits, choosing every sound, every frame. Every breath that stayed or went. She was delicate but clear. Her vision didn't shout, it whispered with strength. When the short film was finally screened for the cast and crew, no one knew what to expect. It was a small room, barely 20 chairs, with a white screen stretched across the wall and a single projector humming in the back. Anna didn't sit in the front. She sat in the second row, her hands folded tightly, heart thudding like it might tear through her chest. Keanu sat next to her. When the lights dimmed, silence was heavy. Then the film began. 14 minutes of raw emotion, stillness, and words that floated like poetry across the screen. There were no explosions, no fast cuts, no dramatic music, just quiet truth spoken by soft voices. And when the final line echoed into the dark, you can survive pain and still choose to be kind. The room fell silent. No one clapped at first. They didn't need to. It wasn't that kind of film. It was the kind that left people staring at the floor, linking hard, suddenly remembering someone they'd lost or someone they missed. No. or something. Inside themselves, they hadn't listened to in years, and then someone stood. A young lighting assistant. "Thank you," he said softly, "for making something that felt like me." Anna looked up slowly. Someone else nodded. "Same." Then the sound editor added, "I didn't know I needed that today, but I did." Anna's hands trembled, and Keanu beside her gently reached out and held one of them. A few days later, the studio offered to enter the film into a short film festival. Anna didn't ask for it. She didn't expect it. The director insisted. "This isn't about awards," he said. "It's about letting more people feel what we felt." Anna agreed, but quietly. She wasn't chasing anything anymore. Had already won something no trophy could match her voice, her peace, her purpose, but the biggest moment was yet to come. A week after the film's private screening, Anna was invited to speak on a small stage at a local filmmakers' night. Just a few chairs, an intimate crowd of storytellers and artists. Nothing fancy. She almost said no. The fear came back. What if her voice shook? What if she froze? But Keanu sat with her in the quiet before her name was called. "You don't have to be perfect," he said. "Just be you. That's more than enough." Anna took a deep breath, then walked up to the microphone. The lights were soft. The room was still, and when she looked out at the faces in front of her, she didn't see strangers. She saw people who had felt broken once, people who had been quiet too long, people who just wanted to feel understood. She spoke slowly, honestly. Double quotes, "I didn't plan to speak tonight. But I think that's okay, 'cause life doesn't always go the way we plan. Sometimes it falls apart, and sometimes we do too." She paused, eyes scanning the crowd. "But what I've learned, what I'm still learning, is that even when you feel invisible, someone might be seeing you. Someone might be listening. And sometimes that one person makes all the difference." She looked toward the back of the room. Keanu stood there, arms crossed loosely, his eyes full of quiet pride. Anna smiled. "I hope this little film we made reminds someone that their voice matters, even if it shakes, even if it's quiet, it still matters." She stepped down. The crowd stood, not clapping wildly, but slowly together, like waves rising. The echo that never Fadana didn't expect her short film to reach beyond that quiet stage. She thought it would live only in the hearts of those who had seen it, those who had felt the honesty behind it. But stories have a strange way of moving when they're told from the heart, gentle and true. They find their own path. A few days after her talk at the filmmakers' night, someone uploaded a clip of her final speech. No edits, no filters, just her soft voice and steady words even. If your voice shakes, it still matters. Within hours, it spread. Artists, young writers, grief counselors, and even high school students began reposting it. The comment sections filled with quiet confessions. "I needed this more than I knew. I haven't spoken in front of a group in 2 years. Tomorrow, I will try. This saved me tonight." Anna watched it all unfold from her trailer, unsure whether to be overwhelmed or grateful. Maybe both. She closed the laptop, pressed her hand over her heart, and took a slow breath. "Thank you," she whispered later that evening. Keanu knocked on her door. He didn't bring anything, no flowers, no script, no speech, just himself. "I thought we'd take a walk," he said. Anna grabbed her coat and joined him outside. The air was cool. The city lights blinked below them as they followed a path along the ridge. For a while, they said nothing. Then Keanu glanced over and asked, "How are you feeling?" Anna smiled lightly, like, "I'm not hiding anymore." "Good," he said, "because you never needed to." She stopped walking and looked at him, her voice lower now. "Why did you stay, Keanu? That day? When I couldn't speak? Why did you sit next to me?" He paused, then answered with the same quiet honesty he had shown since the beginning. "Because I've been there," he said. "I know what it's like to carry pain in silence. And I know how much it matters when someone simply stays." Nodded slowly, her eyes soft. "You didn't try to fix me, 'cause you weren't broken," he replied. "You were just waiting to feel safe again. They continued walking. The sound of their shoes on gravel was soft, almost musical in the stillness. "You gave me space," Anna whispered, "and somehow that space became everything." "Sometimes the kindest thing you can give someone," Keanu said, "is room to come back to themselves." A week later, Anna's short film was selected by a major international film festival. It wasn't just accepted, it was chosen as the opening piece for the Voices of Healing category. Hundreds of films had been submitted, but hers stood out not for flash, but for truth. The invitation letter arrived on a rainy morning. She stared at it for a long time. God, she never thought a few pages from a worn notebook could lead to a theater full of strangers, but here she was. She invited Keanu, of course, and he came, wearing the same quiet presence and simple black suit he always did. When they entered the festival building, a soft gasp moved through the lobby. Photographers paused. Organizers leaned in, because they weren't just watching celebrities, they were watching something else, something deeper. Anna stepped onto the small stage after the screening. The audience had just finished wiping their tears. Even the harshest critics were silent, their pens still. Anna stood at the microphone, her voice calm. "This story was never meant to be big," she said. "It was just meant to be honest." Looked out at the crowd. "I wrote it in the middle of grief. I filmed it with the help of friends who believed in me more than I believed in myself. I stand here because one person just once sat beside me when no one else did." She turned her head slightly, eyes finding Keanu in the front row. "He didn't try to fix me. He just stayed. And sometimes that's what saves you." The room stood in a quiet ovation, but Keanu didn't stand. He just smiled, proud, not for himself, but for her. After the ceremony, someone from a major studio approached Anna. They wanted to discuss a full-length film, not to change her voice, but to support it. She listened, nodded politely, and asked if she could think about it. When she stepped outside, the cool night air met her like a long-lost friend. Keanu followed, holding 2 cups of tea. "You handled that well," he said, handing her a cup. She laughed lightly. "I feel like I'm walking through a dream." "A dream you built yourself," he replied. Anna sipped her tea, eyes on the city lights below. "Do you think it'll last?" she asked. Keanu took a moment before answering. "The lights, oh, they fade. But your story will echo." Yeah. Looked at him, the warmth in her chest glowing brighter than anything outside. "I want to make more," she said. "Not for fame, not for awards, just for people like the version of me who didn't know how to speak and make them." Keanu said, "And I'll be here watching, listening, helping, if you ever need." She leaned her head against his shoulder, quiet and content. "You know," she said softly, "when I didn't say a word that day, I thought nobody noticed." Keanu smiled. "But I did," he said, "but I always will." What it began with silence became something powerful. Not a blockbuster, not a headline, but a human connection built on kindness, patience, and the courage to sit with someone in their silence. Until they remembered their voice again, Anna kept writing. She kept directing, but more than anything, she kept listening to others who hadn't found their voice yet, because she knew now what just one kind presence could do, and she never forgot who gave her that.